true corruption, and it sets a precedent that is hard to look back from.
Curtis, what do you say to, I guess the other side that's looking at this saying, every president pardons somebody that's close to them. You had President Trump pardoning his son-in-law's father, Jared Kushner's father. Sort of discuss that and tell us some of the potential reasons behind President Biden's decision to pardon his son, especially given his previous statements on the matter.
Well, I think this is far different than ordinary pardons. Pardons are set up for different reasons, and there's a whole process that's involved. But this is the President of the United States pardoning his son, who is implicated in a possible corruption case with the President of the United States. There's a lot of unanswered questions that are in place here.
You're damn right. A lot of unanswered questions.
The FBI and federal authorities had been playing games with this case. It's hard to have the level of trust in our government that's necessary. That's why it's important to note that President Trump, through his transition, is looking to really cut the guts out of the Washington bureaucracy and the way things have been, because we don't know who to trust anymore.
It's a really good point. Certainly not apples for apples. Each pardon is different. The circumstance is different. This pardon issued to Hunter covers activities spanning back 11 years, including his tenure at Burisma Holdings. Could you elaborate on the implications of this time frame for this particular pardon?
For all of us. I mean, the tax evasion case, yeah, we're interested in that. He lied about his gun application. Okay, big deal. The real big deal with Hunter Biden is that he put himself in a position where he was gaining influence as a result of his father's position all over the Eastern Bloc nations. There's deal after deal. There's indication after indication that he has dirt on his hands, and with reference to who all's involved, it could very well go up to the top. By going back to 2014, Joe Biden has made an effort to clean the slate on Hunter Biden so that he doesn't have to stand for investigation on any of these matters. And these matters all had an opportunity to reach as far up as the President of the United States. So it has wide-ranging implications on the authority of the President, and when is it appropriate to issue a pardon, when is it not. It's a really dark day for American justice.
Now, President Biden said his son was targeted and that this was a, quote, miscarriage of justice. Trump frequently argues the same thing about the cases against him in the months and years leading up to the election. I want to play a clip from Democratic Maryland Congressman Glenn Ivey. Actually, we don't have the clip, but I'm going to read it to you. He said, even though I think Hunter Biden, let me rephrase that. We do have the soundbite. I'm going to play it for you.
Even though I don't think Hunter Biden would have been prosecuted under most circumstances, a pardon at this point will be used against, I think, Democrats when we're pushing to defend the Department of Justice against politicizing it. And I think this sort of gives him ground to argue that, both sides are doing the same thing.
So, Curtis, at this point, how much of this is politics and how much of this may be a legitimate concern?
Well, the number of people who are accused of crimes that say they didn't get a fair shot, I mean, that's what we try to build into our system, a fair play opportunity. But how many people have the President of the United States weighing in with unilateral authority to wipe the slate clean, especially as a relative? It's a power that should very rarely be used, if ever. And I think it's been abused here in the case of Joe Biden. We want to have a process where everyone has an opportunity to be fairly treated, and this sets a precedent for tit for tat, where you're going to see politics start to play into the point of ongoing investigations, particularly investigations where the President of the United States could be implicated. So I think that this is a really a very fundamentally flawed position on Joe Biden. It doesn't shock me. I think, in fact, I had predicted that this would happen because Joe Biden is a corrupt individual, and this is indications of it. This is the legacy that he wants to go out on. He's basically sticking his middle finger to the United States of America from a fairness and justice standpoint, and he doesn't care what his legacy looks like.
Switching gears here a bit, I want to talk to you about President-elect Trump's nomination of senior advisor Kash Patel to be the next FBI director. There were other big names in the running, one of which was the Attorney General of Missouri, Andrew Bailey. You've sat in that position as Attorney General, so I think you could speak to this with a lot of credibility and knowledge. How could Kash Patel's nomination affect the FBI's role in U.S. law enforcement?
Well, Kash Patel has made no pretense about the necessity of reworking the federal government and federal investigations, and I think that's necessary. We've seen over the past several years example after example of bad decisions made by the FBI from an investigatory standpoint. They've lost their luster, if you will. So we definitely need to go into the FBI with a scalpel and do a surgical strike, if not more, in terms of how to reinvent, reinvigorate, repurpose the Bureau. And I think Patel has made it very, very clear through many of his statements in the past that he feels that way. He's very loyal to the president and the White House. I think that's an important aspect of President Trump's determination to put him into that position. And I think we really need to place an enema within the justice system to make sure that we rid ourselves of the lawfare that we've been experiencing for the last several years.
Now, Republicans obviously hold a relatively slim majority in the Senate. The jury's out right now, if you will, about whether or not Kash will get confirmed. Vegas, mind you, has him up right now. A lot of people looking to those numbers, the betting odds. How do you see this playing out? Does he have a good chance, Kash, of getting confirmed by the Senate?
Well, I think he certainly has a great chance of getting confirmed because Republicans do control the Senate. For the most part, I think the Republican Senate is going to defer to the president when it can, with the exception of extreme circumstances. And so I think that the president gets his choice. I think that Patel is going to have to still work the Hill and explain to the Senate, members of the Senate, what his background is, what his qualifications for the job is. I think that's probably the question. But I think that the president gets his opportunity to place his support in the person that he has faith in. And we've seen a circumstance where Director Wray may not have the confidence of many in the party, many in the nation. I think it's going to be an interesting battle to see how the president is able to get rid of the 10-year rule. But I think he's got certainly ammunition to do so because there have been examples of FBI malfeasance over the past several years that could squarely be placed on Director Wray's lap. So I think it'll be an interesting process.
Curtis Hill Jr., thank you very much for your insights. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
President-elect Trump urging President Biden to free the January 6 defendants. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has more.
A day after President Biden announced his intention to pardon Hunter Biden, saying his son was treated differently, Special Counsel David Weiss, who prosecuted Hunter Biden on tax and gun charges, pushed back, saying, quote, "There has never been any evidence of vindicative or selective prosecution in this case." The White House, meanwhile, defending the president's pardon.
He also believes that war politics infected the process and it led to a miscarriage of justice. He believes his son was unfairly targeted.
The press secretary on Monday also denied reports that President Biden had been considering pardoning his son since his conviction in June, insisting that President Biden only made up his mind this past weekend. And First Lady Jill Biden on Monday said, "It comes as President-elect Trump on Sunday night raised the prospect of mass pardoning January 6 defendants, saying they were subject to, quote, abuse and miscarriage of justice. And Trump has repeatedly vowed to give clemency to January 6 defendants, particularly those who didn't commit violence. And on Monday, Senator Joe Manchin called on President Biden to pardon Trump on all his charges.
And make it, it's gone down a lot more balanced, if you will.
And Trump's new administration continues to take shape. On Monday, Trump announced that he's picking billionaire investment banker Warren Stevens to be his ambassador to the UK. It comes as Pete Hegseth, his pick for defense secretary, and Pam Bondi, his pick for attorney general, were meeting senators on Capitol Hill on Monday to raise their prospects of getting confirmed. Reporting from the White House, Iris Howe, NTD News.